That's a red flag right there. But one picture, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing? The whole boat's not even in the picture. What is up, my guys? Listen, if you're thinking about buying a boat on Facebook Marketplace, do it. Do it. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. This is your sign to do it. However, do it carefully. Learn from my mistakes. There's certain things you need to look out for before you do it. So these are 3 red flags that I would look out for when buying a Facebook Marketplace boat. So for each of these red flags, I want to show you real world examples so that you can know exactly what I'm looking at in my search history when I look up boat on Facebook Marketplace. Facebook statistics say that about 70% of folks are using Marketplace on their phone. So I put boat on the search bar. I set the maximum price at $12,000, which is something pretty similar to what I did when I bought my Facebook Marketplace boat. First red flag, inboard engines of any type. There's actually one example. You see that Sea Ray back there with the IO? Yeah. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, that's basically the motto to keep in mind for boats as well. Outboard engines, they've been around for, in some capacity, for over a century. They've been getting better for a very, very long time. In fact, one thing that people love about outboard engine boats is how easy they are to repower. The engine, I can show here, is essentially just transom mounted with brackets and bolts. So removing and replacing is much easier than an inboard boat. On some inboard boats, you basically have to take the entire boat apart to repower, or I don't know why I said repower like that, repower, or if you want to do any major engine work, sometimes you have to cut a hole in the base of the boat. Back in my captaining days, I once saw a mechanic spend like 5 hours removing and replacing a $200 starter just because of where it was located on the engine. The dude was sweating. He was trying to fit into these tights. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. When you're working with some sort of outboard power, take the engine cowling off, do the work. It's much easier. One of the things that people don't talk about sometimes is that inboard engines actually need some raw water or seawater in order to cool. That means that somewhere on the hull that touches the water, you're gonna have to have a through hull, a hole in the hull that's gonna need to draw seawater. Even when it's done correctly, that can sometimes be a little bit sketchy, especially when you're working with a used boat that's a bit older. In my experience, the few times that I've seen a boat sink in open water, it's been because of a hose failure, basically a hose tearing or ripping with a raw water hose. It's got a tear, it's got some sort of break, and then you just get seawater flooding the engine room much faster than obviously the bilge pumps can handle. And once a boat starts taking on water like that, you just end up in a very, very scary situation. For the kind of boats that we're looking at, stick to outboard. One last point to really hammer home the outboard versus inboard discussion is the fact that a boat will always ride better with outboards than it will with an inboard. Typically, when you're dealing with an outboard, the propeller, which is your driving force on the boat, is going to be much farther back than when you have any sort of inboard power. The further back your propeller, the better the attack angle for the drive of the boat. If your propeller is here, it's not going to be as efficient, it's not going to be able to provide as much power, it's not going to be able to get you on plane as quickly as a propeller that's back here, all other things remaining equal. All right, let's hop on Facebook Marketplace and I'm going to show you examples of these red flags when you're looking at boat listings. So I found here an example of what would be the first red flag. This is a C Pro 23, WA stands for walk around, and it says it in the description, a C Pro 1994 with a V8 5.0 Volvo Penta, about 300 hours, trailer included, and there you can see in the video the inboard engine. It does look clean, I'll give it that. However, for me, it's just a huge no-no. you can see there that is, it's called an inboard outboard or an IO. That's basically very similar to the tail of an outboard, but it feeds into an inboard. This is a bunch of seals that are just asking for seal failure. In my experience, especially the Mercruiser ones, begging for seal failure. As soon as those seals fail, this thing is borderline useless. You have to replace basically the entire lower unit, and replacing that lower unit at a boat that's $9,500 is basically going to almost equal your purchase price. So although the boat looks clean, fiberglass looks to be in good condition, nice hard top, searchlight, that inboard outboard is just a killer. That's a red flag, huge red flag for me. All right, second red flag, and I made a whole video about this that you can find somewhere up here. I'll put the link to it. Please, for the sake of your wallet, avoid boats on trailers that have torsion suspension. I made an entire video about this. I think the torsion suspension is a scam. As you can see, this is my Facebook Marketplace boat. This is the trailer that it came on, which we've done a bunch of work to. And right in there are those torsion arms. There's the axles. All that had to be replaced. That was, unfortunately, all money that we had to spend because of the condition of the torsion axles. If you don't believe me, look, here are actually the old bunks that we had to swap out. Those were in horrible condition. If you watch the video, you'll see why we had to change them out. Why is this a big deal? Because with torsion suspension, with these torsion axles, they're basically entirely one piece. It's an axle with two torsion joints or torsion arms on each side, and it's just all one piece. If you have an issue with one specific component, if one of the arms breaks, you have to replace the entire axle with both arms. You have to replace the whole thing. It's all this entire axle and that joint right there, that's all one piece. Anything breaks on there, you have to replace the whole thing. There's no component fixing, okay? Here, my smart neighbors, right? Take a look at this guy. This is leaf spring suspension. This leaf spring suspension is a beauty because if you need to change out the axle, you change out the axle. You want to change out the leaf springs, you change out the leaf springs. The clamps, change the clamps. Whatever you need to change out, there's components for. You can just change it out. You don't have to change out the entire system. Please stay away from torsion suspension, especially if you're dealing with salt water. When you're dealing with salt water, everything's gonna need to be changed often. Work with something where it's cheaper to fix, update, change, replace specific components and not the entire thing. All right, this red flag, let's hop on the marketplace and try to find an example for it. So now I'm looking at trailers, not so much the boat. We're looking for torsion suspension. That looks like leaf spring suspension to me, which is a green flag. That's good. Sometimes you have to zoom in, but this is an example of something you might have to ask the seller for pictures of the suspension on the trailer. The good news about this red flag is that torsion suspension is actually not super common. So most of the trailers that you're going to be looking at are leaf spring suspensions. So really the only thing to do here is not how is this available? Hey, what kind of suspension does this trailer have? Make it be one of the questions that you ask when you ask, your first basic questions about the boat. So on this boat, funny enough, the boat next to it, when you see that straight axle like that and the axle's directly attached to the frame, that means that right outside of that there's a torsion joint. So not this boat specifically. I'm not sure about this boat. You'd have to basically peek inside there and see if there's a leaf spring in there or a torsion joint. But here, when you see that axle go straight to the body of the trailer and it's connected with those two U-bolts, that means that there's a torsion joint coming out of that, and that's what the wheel is attached to. So that's a huge red flag, big no-no. This Boston Whaler, cool. Whatever's on this thing, red flag.
So the third and final big red flag are boats that have not seen the water in a very long time. Okay, if you're a professional Facebook marketplace boat restorer, this video is obviously not for you. My videos are for the average guy that wants to get a good deal on a boat and wants to get out on the water for the least amount of money and the least amount of time. Okay, that means you have to stick to boats that have gotten regular use. In this sense, boats are a lot like planes. Planes that get regular use are the ones that are the safest to fly, and they're the ones that are generally the most reliable. Same thing for boats. If you have to pick between a boat that looks like it's in very, very good condition, but it hasn't been used in 2 years, and a boat that's a little bit more beat up, but gets used every single weekend, take the one with regular use. Seaworthiness is very important, and seaworthiness can be lost pretty quickly, especially when you're talking about saltwater boats. So let's hop on Facebook Marketplace and I'll show you an example of this last red flag.
Here's an example for that third red flag. 21 Sierra with 200 horsepower Yamaha. The boat actually looks pretty nice. Yamaha V6, amazing. Whenever you have those saltwater series V6s, they're usually very, very sturdy engines. However, in the description, 2001 Sierra, comfy family boat, cabin, blue cushions, Yamaha saltwater series, excellent. Hydraulic steering, new shifters, only issue swivel bracket, not a big deal. No soft floors, big plus. Boat hasn't seen water in 4 years. 4 years. Huge red flag. Huge red flag. That's a tough one. It's got a hard top too. I mean, it's a good deal for what it is, $7,500 with the hard top, the 200 horsepower Yamaha. If that thing was in the water a week ago, I'd buy it, and I have a boat. This is a phenomenal deal. That hasn't seen water in 4 years, massive red flag. Now here's the good news on this red flag. The way to avoid this, if this is just a boat that you decide, hey, this deal's a little bit too good to pass up, or you just lowball the guy and he somehow accepts it, ask to go on a sea trial. Tell him this money is contingent on us putting this boat in the water and doing a full sea trial. Put the boat on plane, get up to your RPMs, make sure that the engine keeps temperature. That's your number one concern, is this guy right here. If this guy is in good condition and the boat hasn't touched the water in 4 years, as long as the inside is okay, there's no soft spots on the hull, there's no soft spots on the floor, the fiberglass is in good condition, this is a solid boat at a solid price.
So I appreciate you dropping in. If you feel like this video helped you, please like it, subscribe to the channel. I try to pump out as many videos as I can of myself working on the boat, working on the trailer. Once this boat's ready to go, we're gonna do a lot of fishing on the boat. We're gonna pump out some fishing content. We got some beach fishing content as well. My goal is to basically be as transparent as possible with everybody that watches this channel on what I'm doing to this boat, what I'm doing to the trailer, how much I'm spending on it, what it's taking me to basically get out on the water, and my mistakes raw, so that you can avoid making those same mistakes and hopefully save you a little bit of time and money getting out on the water. If I can give at least one guy out there the tools, the confidence, the information to get out on the water and enjoy, do some fishing with his family, then this whole thing was a success. Now I need some footage for the outro. Here's the boat. Yeah, boat, super boat, bucks, brackets, torsion sucks. Yeah, all that, the wheel, look at the wheel, Road Max ST. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, yeah.